Hello and welcome to SEC Basketball Reaction here at Southeastern 16. I am your host, Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell and Max Barr. We are going to rewind some games from Wednesday night. Auburn, an 87-74 winner over LSU in Baton Rouge. Alabama goes to Starkville, pulls out a hard-fought 88-84 win over the Bulldogs at the Hump, and finally in the nightcap, Ole Miss pulls one out over Texas in a game that went down to the buzzer. We are going to discuss all three because they were all interesting in their own right. However, you should know, if we don't talk about Auburn right off the jump as much as you think we might, there's a little bit of a reason for that, Blake Lovell.
Very, Chris, you set it up as though like this was some kind of like just secret, just big magical. I don't even know what. Like it sounded very ominous. Magical. It sounded like an ominous reason as to why we're not discussing Auburn. So it's really not, folks. We are, we may have a special guest joining us here in a bit, and so we were going to save the Auburn LSU discussion for then. So we're going to start with Alabama Mississippi State. T-Rob's here. T-Rob's ready, too, for the Royal Rumble on Saturday. I'll tell you that right now. T-Rob, lots of thoughts coming on that, too. As Zach says, it's a great day for a great day. $5 super chat.
The streak is alive.
If you're wondering why we're starting late, Thursdays are predictions day, as you know. And we try to record predictions before we do this, and we got a little behind this morning, so we're a little bit late to get this started. But, all right, Alabama, Mississippi State. Let's start there, okay? Because that's the headline game in terms of two top 15 teams going at it at the Hump. Alabama 88, Mississippi State 84 in this game. My goodness, the Tide pull out another impressive win here. Great game. I mean, this thing was just Josh Hubbard's like, hang on a second. All right, Goodness. I've heard all the talk. I've heard everything out there about how Josh Hubbard's in a slump and, man, this and that, the percentages, whatever, he said. I don't care. But Max, he goes for 38 points here, and I wish we had the time this morning for you to pull the clip from yesterday because if anyone remembers, we made predictions on what is Josh Hubbard going to shoot from three. He went 6 of 15 in this game. Yours truly said 6 of 14. And I was that close. If he had not taken one more attempt, I would have got it right on the money. But, man, what an incredible performance from Josh Hubbard. But it wasn't enough as Alabama hits 15 threes on the road here. Chris Youngblood, our guy.
Yep.
Chris Youngblood, 7 of 10 from three. My goodness. What a game this was.
Every week now, every single week, I think I've said, that was my favorite game of the year so far. Game of the year. I loved it. And here I am again, sitting here. That was my favorite game of the year so far. If you want to talk about, just imagine you don't know the SEC that well, and you're tuning into the primetime. You're tuning into the primetime game, and you just see Hubbard just not missing a shot. Keshawn Murphy taking advantage of every opportunity. He gets 8 of 12. It felt like he didn't miss a shot. Then you got, right when you think the Hump is about to blow the roof off the place, Chris Youngblood gets a sliver of some space, buries it almost every time. Dioubate, unbelievable. You know what? We did have a what'd he say? I missed it.
Nicholas said it wouldn't be a complete Thursday if we didn't get to hear Blake stroke his ego. Well, come on, please. Come on, Nicholas. You got to take your wins where you can get them in the SEC this year, okay? We don't get everything right, but when we do, we have to take a victory lap.
This comment right here. Max, your guy, Matthews, was a no-show last night. I will admit, been a little bit hard on Cam. He's playing a different role now. He's got to play a lot more point for them and a lot more initiator on offense rather than cutting off ball and doing all the little dirty things. He's a lot more involved now, which changes things. However, as Blake and Chris know I'm about to say, for the first time in I believe the history of the Bully Ball Committee, there's a new front runner for Bully Ball Player of the Year. And that's That's Mo Dioubate. Well deserved. Just an absolute difference maker when he steps on the court.
We also had the Mark Sears bounce back game, which I think all of us were expecting. There were 7 turnovers there, but 17 points, 9 assists, and I think the big thing for Alabama was what you brought up with Youngblood. I mean, he was just stepping up and shooting threes, and man, they all looked clean off the hand. That was a beautiful shooting performance by that kid. We've said time and time again, I don't think Alabama has all clicked yet at the right time. I still don't know that we're seeing it yet, but I do think you're seeing some signs that it's coming. I mean, they are what?
I think they're already there, are they not? I mean, they just scored 88 on the road against Mississippi State. They hit 15 threes. Youngblood had his breakout game. Sears had his bounce-back game. Dioubate is just playing some fantastic basketball. Holloway has continued to be consistent, one of the most consistent players in the SEC. Big Cliff is affecting shots left and right. I mean, hey, I'm not saying they can't go higher, but I think we're maybe not giving enough credit here if we're like, well, they're not there yet. If they're not there yet, look the hell out to everybody else. So,
see, that's the way I meant it. I think that they are playing well, but I watched them a lot of times and think there's a higher level for them. I mean, they were number 1 in the country for a reason. They've had the injuries. They just haven't had continuity. We're trying to get all these parts together and used to work. And like a lot of teams, it's been the same team out of the box from the jump. That's not been the case for Alabama. So it's not something you wouldn't expect under that situation, but I just think they are really, really good. I mean, I think, well, I'm gonna hold off on saying what I was gonna say because we have Auburn to talk about, and Auburn is still a juggernaut. But I think if Auburn weren't in this league, I might feel better about Alabama's chances of winning whatever you want to put in front of it better than anyone else in the league.
I would like to see the splits for Keshawn Murphy when Big Cliff was on the court compared to when Big Cliff was off the court. I thought that game last night, Cliff plays 20 minutes, only has 1 block, 6 points, grabs 7 boards. But when Big Cliff was out, that especially in the first half, when Alabama had about an 8-ish point lead, I feel like it was about 8 or 7, Cliff comes out and Murphy had like maybe 3 or 4 possessions in a row where they get it to him on a short roll or however they got it to him. And Murphy took advantage immediately with like 2 or 3 straight baskets, gets the crowd back into it. And then it was tied back up at like 35 or something like that. The difference in Alabama's defense was really noticeable. Cliff on the court compared to Cliff off the court. I thought the box score doesn't do Cliff a justice for how impactful he was.
I mean, I feel like we said the same thing in that Kentucky game. Like we were just like, as we're watching that game they played at Kentucky, we're like, some of this stuff isn't even going to be measured in the box score, but we're just like, it's just the fact that he's there. Like it's just, it's such a difference. And yeah, I mean, as people note in the chat, I think when you see him on the court and then you see them without him on the court, there's a huge difference. Yeah, I mean, right here, like it's just there's a big difference whenever he's not on the court.
Yep.
And again, it isn't always just stat based either. It is just the fact that his presence in the paint or just things that he can do. There's just no one else on the roster that can do that. And so, I mean, that's why they brought him in. And so, yeah, I mean, he's been tremendous. And I mean, like I was even when I put the stat out yesterday, the box plus minus for the SEC in conference play so far. Like Big Cliff's number 6, in the league. And it was Caleb Grill was 1, Pettiford 2, Kaluma 3, Broome 4, Cardwell 5. Look at Auburn, 3 players in the top 5. Big Cliff at 6, Asa Newell at 7, Elijah Martin and Aiden Holloway tied for 8th, and then Alex Condon was 10th. But it just kind of shows you the impact that Big Cliff has. But yeah, I mean, but I think, and Chris is right. Like, sure, there are some games you can point out and be like, well, it's still not all the way there. But I think after a game like last night, maybe they're there now, because when you have Youngblood playing like that, you've got all these other guys playing this way. I don't really care about the Sears turnovers. I think it's just whatever. He handles the ball more than anyone else. It's a road game against a good team. It's going to happen sometimes. Ziegler's had some turnover games too this season, but he's still, pretty good. And so listen, if Alabama's shooting 48% from three and they're chucking it up 31 times, look out, because that's the one thing we've talked about all season. The percentages were not high 3-point wise, but now look at them. All of a sudden, it's moved up to 189th nationally. We probably would have thought it'd be a top 100 team, but trending in the right direction after a performance like that.
Well, my hesitation is kind of this. I felt like for a while you've seen this coming with Alabama, and then they'll throw you a curveball. There was the Ole Miss game. There was Sears getting benched for the second half of the LSU game. Like right when you think it's all come together, something weird happens here and there. But I want to go back to the Biggs comment. Like I've watched them, and I think you guys have absolutely nailed it. I think that the impact of their bigs transcends whatever lines you see in the box score. I remember seeing Vanderbilt have issues with their bigs in that game down the stretch. Kentucky had some issues with their bigs, and then last night you had probably the biggest play of the game. I don't know why Keshawn Murphy didn't try to dunk that ball, but I think sometimes when you've got the looming presence of something that might or might not be there in your head. I mean, like he missed a layup that he hits 1,000 times out of 1,000. And we were all like, how in the world did he miss the shot? Max said, I think that somebody might have gotten a piece of it. I don't know if that happened or not, but I think even if they didn't, just the mental toll that they can take on you, that you might have a big, lengthy guy, and they got plenty of them back there ready to redirect your stuff, takes a toll on teams. And they're big. I think their bigs won that game for them in the final 2 minutes with just their ability to get rebounds, affect shots. Like when the game really mattered, I thought Alabama's bigs down the stretch were maybe the biggest factor in that game.
Yeah, and I've watched it back a few times, and I feel like Cliff just gets a piece of it and kind of just barely like makes it hit off the backboard just slightly harder than it was intended, and that's why it kind of just skips out. It's so tough to tell if he actually gets a piece on it or not. I feel like he does. And you want to just say like, go up strong with it. Why don't you just go up? There's a few seconds left. I know there was still 15 seconds left, but with the intensity of that moment, down by one, you get the ball real quick. You're just thinking like, let me just get it up real quick. Let me just get it in there. This is one of the first times I've seen a free rim all night, and you just miss it barely. It's a game of inches. I don't want that to be the main story though for Mississippi State. I thought that this was a game where, again, how many times now, guys, have we said like, well, they lost the game, but I feel great about them. That's like that's just been a story of so many games now. Hubbard, could you imagine, Chris, not putting Josh Hubbard on your first team preseason ballot? Could you imagine?
Can't imagine.
Oh my God, me either. It would blow my mind not having Josh Hubbard there. So he proves why he's there. Keshawn Murphy does his thing. Even Claudell Harris had a good game too. They all stepped up, but you got to feel for all those fans there that packed the hump. They've seen some great games, and they just can't seem to get those big ones to close them out.
So you're saying they just can't seem to get over the hump? Is that what you wanted to say?
Man, yeah. It would have been nice if that rolled off the tongue better.
Yeah, it would have been better, I think. It would have been a better segue. But seriously, we knew coming into the season there were going to be some really good SEC teams that were going to be 4-4 in the league at one point. Like Mississippi State's 4-4, Tennessee's 4-4. It's just, it's the nature of your schedule and the league this season. Because that's the thing, right? Mississippi State is 4-4 in the SEC. They've lost to Kentucky, Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama. Number 2 in Ken Palm, number 6, number 7, number 18. Like that's how it works this year. And they're still going to get some opportunities to beat some of these top tier teams. They get Florida at home, coming up in a couple weeks. They get Missouri at home, of course, on Saturday. They still got to go to Alabama. They get that road game, too, against Ole Miss, home against A&M. So still plenty of opportunity for Mississippi State. They're not in any danger, I think, despite losing 4 of their last 6. It's just a matter of trying to build your resume further now. And, we mentioned they were like a 4 seed, 5 seed, something like that. And, now I think they're still in that same range. Just because you lose by 4 at home to Alabama, it doesn't really hurt you. So, yeah, Missouri coming up on Saturday. And then these are 2 teams that will play on Saturday, then get the full week off next week before getting back at it the following Saturday. And then for Alabama, they are home against Georgia on Saturday, then get the midweek off before going to Arkansas the following Saturday. So, Alabama, we said it yesterday, I think, probably without looking at it. I guess I could pull it up real quick in ESPN's BPI, but I'm going to think that they probably still have, according to this, the second best record, or second best strength of record in the country. So Auburn is 1, Alabama's 2. No surprise after getting another great win here for the Tide on the road. So,
Max, I wanted to echo something you said. I didn't leave this game feeling any worse about Mississippi State. In fact, I think I felt better because if that team is going to reach its ceiling, Josh Hubbard has got to be great like we know he can be. He was just fantastic last night. And he and Keshawn Murphy had that little 2-man game going that was really working well. I love the way that Murphy moves. There's just not a lot of athletic 6'10" guys like him. And I think Cam Matthews took a little bit more of a back seat in the offense last night. I think he's been – I think we all love Cam Matthews here, but I think they are better off when he is facilitating a little bit less. And I think that they found something with Murphy and Hubbard last night that may have some staying power. I mean, Melendez missed part of the game going down with the, bumps and bruises or whatever that was, or turned an ankle. I don't remember now. They've took a lot of pieces that, like, if Hubbard plays like that, he's not going to get 38 points every night or whatever, but he just has to be closer to that than what he's been. They're a much different team.
Well, yeah, it's hard to quantify this, but the time that RJ Melendez missed in that first half with the injury and the time that Josh Hubbard missed in the first half, is that worth 4 points? Which is...
Well, the way Hubbard played...
Right? So just kind of emphasizing the idea of feeling good about these guys moving forward, even though they lost.
All right. Before we get into the next thing, perhaps, let's just go ahead and get an ad read in. Who wants to get an ad read in early on in the show? I mean, who wants to? Why not? Because you know what? We keep talking about these resumes and all this stuff, getting ready for the tournament and all that.
Tournament.
Now, I think to play a tournament, you have Chris just stole the friggin' segment. Oh, goodness. Anyway, speaking of brackets, let's just tell you about bracket bids. Chris, you want to do the read here? You're welcome.
No, I do not.
I'm just kidding. That was a great segue from Chris. I thought it was a tremendous way to put it. Brackets. He's got brackets on the brain as he should, but he's really got bracket bids on the brain, as we know, because our new friends from Bracket Bids will help you not just fill out a bracket this March. They'll take your college hoops experience to the next level with their incredible bracket thing here they have going. Enter into their free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league with friends, family, or coworkers. We're certainly going to do that here. Hopefully Max doesn't win like he's winning at everything else. And then everyone starts with the same bidding dollars, but it's up to you to outwit and outbid your league mates to secure the teams you think will go the distance. Choose from multiple scoring models, including upset bonuses to reward the bold picks. Speaking of bold picks, spoiler alert, there is a bold pick coming for our Saturday predictions. Someone went bold. We'll find out who it is. Track your teams with live in-game scoring and watch the standings shift in real time. The further your teams advance, the higher you climb the standings. Remember, for league play, use that promo code SC16 for 40% off. Download the Bracket Bids app today or visit bracketbids.com and upgrade your March. All right, speaking of upgrades, I can't think of a better segue. We're about to upgrade things on this show here, Max. You know why? Because we're going to welcome in a professional, because we're not professionals here. We all know that at this point. But we're going to welcome in someone who is a professional. Are you ready, Max? Bring him in. There he is. ESPN, SEC Network, analyst Mark Wise. Coach Mark Wise joins us here, fresh off the Auburn LSU game. Mark, great to finally chat with you here on.
I feel like a what do they call that? Long-time listener, first-time caller. So I've listened to you guys a lot over the last couple of years, so it's a thrill to be on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Mark. Yeah, and we always appreciate the kind words. I know we got a chance to connect last year at the SEC tournament, and we'll see you again this year here in Nashville. But it was a good time to get you on because we were just about to talk about this Auburn LSU game from last night. But, of course, we also kind of put it within the context of what Auburn has done this season. And Auburn wins there in Baton Rouge, 87-74 last night. Johni Broome, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 3 blocks. We can just keep going on and on about this guy. But we'll just throw it to you, Mark. What stood out in this game last night for you?
Well, a couple of things. One is, on the very first possession of the game, Auburn had 6 offensive rebounds. And early in the game, they had 11 offensive rebounds and 0 second chance points. Do you know how hard that is to do? So from an offensive standpoint, I thought they were kind of clunky. I mean, Chaney Johnson makes 2 late threes. Other than that, I mean, I think they had 6 makes on the game, so they didn't really shoot the ball particularly well. And when we interviewed Johni Broome after the game, we were talking about his double-double, and he goes, yeah, probably my worst double-double of my career. He had 26 and 16. I mean, come on. What are we talking about? He said he got chewed out at halftime. It was a pretty funny interview. So, again, I didn't think they brought their A game, and I talked about this on the air. You hear coaches talk about respecting the game. And I think maybe up until last night, I think Auburn has done a really good job with that bullseye on their back. But perhaps because the shots didn't go in early and it didn't come easy and really things didn't change until I think it was 16-all in the first half. I never felt like they were in trouble, but they were never able to put LSU away. LSU finally made some shots, which helped matters immensely. LSU athletically can stay with Auburn. I mean, they've got some guys that are really athletic, but you can't turn the ball over the way they turned it over. And Auburn, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but one of the things that I like to evaluate is how many different ways can your team win a game?
Yeah.
And I think Auburn can win in more different ways than any team I've seen in the country this year. We had a graphic ready to go last night. We never kind of got to it, but they've won a game in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So if you want to win to grind it out like against Tennessee on Saturday, they can do that. If you want to get in a shootout and win a game in the 80s and 90s, they can do that. I think they, make a run in March. We know you have to have certain things. You have to have NBA talent, and they've got some of that. You've got to be in Ken Palm's top 40 offensive and defensive efficiency, and they're 12th defensively, first offensively, so they qualify there. And then you got to be healthy. I mean, you got to have these things, and sometimes the basketball gods have got to smile on you. And Broome's been hurt twice now this year, but I think all things being equal, I would really like Auburn's chances in March.
Mark, to your point, I kind of think through this. I was thinking through this last night. Like, what if you were SEC teams that could make trades? Like, if Vanderbilt could swap a guard to Mississippi State for a big or something like that.
Right.
I started thinking, like, it would kind of be fun to make mock trades with all the teams. And I got to thinking about Auburn. I'm like, what would you trade? Like, I don't know what they need.
Where are you going to upgrade?
Right. Yeah. And like, it would probably mess up the chemistry that Bruce has got going. And I just think that says a lot about what Auburn is.
I made this comment last night that Auburn has 7 starters.
Yeah.
Because when you throw Chaney Johnson and Pettiford in the mix, they're both double-figure scorers. Nobody plays more than 28 minutes, and that's Broome. Nobody plays less than 20. So those 7 are going to do the bulk of playing, and then you throw in, Chris Moore as an eighth man, and Dylan Cardwell. I mean, it was interesting to hear Bruce talk about the conversation that they had last summer with Broome, Cardwell, and Johnson. They knew Johnson was going to come back. They didn't know about Broome. Broome decides to come back. Cardwell didn't want to play behind Broome again. So Bruce made the commitment. He told us this yesterday, that he made the commitment to play the bigs. And so that's the way they start. They start Broome and Cardwell, and they've thrived. Johnson, coming off the bench, is playing the best basketball of his career, and Pettiford's just electric.
Yeah. So I got a kind of an interesting question here. So we've been talking about the Auburn offense just endlessly, just because of how efficient it is, how fun it is to watch. The defense is still, when you're looking at adjusted defensive efficiency, depending on what metric you look at, top 15 in the country. We do not talk about this defense like it's top 15 in the country whatsoever. I was just wondering, because even right now we could probably talk about the offense for the whole show. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what Auburn does defensively that has been so good to this point.
Well, here's what I would tell you, Max. I think in order to be elite defensively, you have to have certain ingredients. And it starts with team speed, team quickness. Compare Auburn's team speed and quickness to Kentucky, for instance. Okay, Kentucky's they're a very average quickness team. Auburn, I wouldn't call them elite, but they are close to elite. The second thing you've got to have is great length. Auburn is elite in length, both in the backcourt and in the front court. Then you've got to have the ability to alter shots. Auburn has multiple guys who can block shots, rim protect. And then lastly, you got to be committed. You got to have the first three. It's like pineapple. If you want to have good pineapple upside down cake, you better have pineapple. Okay, so I don't think, like Kentucky, I'm going to go back to them. Kentucky's not going to be elite. And I looked at the numbers in the Tennessee game, and I saw where somewhere Tennessee was 13 for 42 in open looks. I mean, that makes your defense look better. So Auburn is elite defensively. Yes, we probably don't talk enough about it.
Mark, just as a whole, I mean, again, we could certainly talk about Auburn for a while based on the historic season they're having. But, I mean, and, we've talked about this with Mike Morgan and any other kind of, analyst that's come on just to talk, and what you see courtside in this league this season, and just the unbelievable historic year that the SEC is having. I mean, I guess this is kind of just a big question where you can kind of take it anywhere you want, but what has stood out the most to you to allow the SEC to have the kind of season we're seeing from, all these different teams, potentially 12 or 13 teams making it to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I've got several things, Blake, going through my head. Number one is when you look at resumes, you always look at the warts as well. Now, the NCAA committee only looks at your warts on your resume if everything else is close, because they ask these questions: who'd you play, who'd you beat, where'd you beat them? I mean, they don't ask who did you lose to. But if it comes down to that last spot, like Texas, I think is in the last four in today, and I've got them here on Saturday, then who you lose to becomes important. Nobody, I don't think in the league has a quad 3 or quad 4 loss. Zero. There's zero. That is so unbelievable. And then and I don't know how it has translated once we got into league play, but you look at the quad 1 records, and of course, obviously Auburn won their 12th last night. I think LSU's still inside the top 75, which makes that a quad 1 win. And it's just off the charts. Here's another way I would look at it. Do you know what the difference is between the first place team in this league and the 6th place team? It's one possession. And the 6th place team and the 12th place team, it's one possession. Or how about this? The fact that the 8th ranked team in the country is 4-4 in the league. I mean, you can slice up the pie any way you want. It's still the best tasting pie in the country.
Mark, I'd go a step further, and I've got to hop off because we got an SEC baseball coach to interview here. But these guys are going to stay on with you, but I've got to scoot to that. But we were having the conversation last night. If you put LSU in the ACC, where does LSU finish? And you could probably say the same thing for South Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. Or Georgia.
Or Georgia.
Yeah, and do you know who, and this is kind of comical, but do you know who feels like they have the worst SEC schedule of all the teams in the league? Whichever coach I'm talking to last. My schedule's the worst. Okay.
No.
Have you seen our league schedule? Yeah, I kind of have. So everybody has a tough stretch. It's just, and that's another way to look at it. I don't know if I've ever seen a year where and coaches they'll never admit this, but they all look at their schedule and they go, we can get one there. If we can pick up two here, I think we might be able to get this one on the road. I just don't know where you find those this year. I don't know where they come from. It's 18 like one game seasons. And I was watching last night, the two games last night after our game were spectacular. I mean, just spectacular.
Oh,
games.
Man.
And so, when we put up a graphic of here are the games coming this Saturday, there are numbers all over the place. Number 4 is playing number 16, number 8's playing number. It's just ridiculous.
Mark, thank you for joining us. I hop just for the chat. We're going to go talk to Rob Vaughn at Alabama. Don't worry, Auburn, we didn't forget you. We got Butch Thompson tomorrow and Skip Johnson at Oklahoma. So bit busy day here at the channel as we transition into baseball. But sorry I have to hop off. But Mark, thank you for coming on with us.
No problem.
All right, Max. What do you got?
Okay, so I'm wondering, how have you seen the intensity of the home court advantages pick up? Because we were watching Mississippi State last night, and the hump is just nuts. I forget who was the play-by-play for that last night. His name's slipping my mind right now, but he was like, this is my first time here. This place is bananas, just a madhouse. And I feel like that's almost every single primetime game in this league. I was wondering how you've experienced it this year.
Yeah, it's certainly picked up in intensity, but everybody's winning. Everybody, I mean, look at Vanderbilt and what's going on there. Look at Missouri and what's going on there. I had the Oklahoma game. I don't know if you guys saw the balloon snake around the entire arena. We had the Oklahoma Texas game where they built the balloon snake and it went all the way around the arena. So, I'm Auburn, in my view, is still the toughest place to play. But then when you factor in all other things, I think the next tier of teams are all kind of lumped together.
Mark, you brought up Vanderbilt, and we've talked about Texas, and, like you said, you get to see them on Saturday. They're at LSU, and I guess, and that's the thing is, like, I want to ask the question, like, who are the teams that are not being talked about enough right now, or the teams you feel like maybe certainly are raising their ceiling a bit, but I'm like, man, we talk about them so much because look at the records of all these teams. But who maybe is a team out there that you're like, okay, and again, it could be a team like Vanderbilt who's 4-3 in the SEC, Texas 3-5, whoever, but who's kind of that team maybe not getting enough attention right now you feel like is ready to maybe make a move here over the next, month or so?
Well, I don't know if they're ready to make a move, but I don't think we're talking enough about Missouri. I really like Missouri. I like the way they're put together. I like the mix that he's done. Mark Mitchell is a problem. He's a real matchup problem because of his ability to face the rim. So the guys that are basically guarding him for the most part are similar size, but they're not as quick as he is. And then you've got Caleb Grill, who's playing lights out, shooting lights out. He's single-handedly won them 2 league games. I mean, by himself. So he comes off the bench. He's got great range. He's shooting with a lot of confidence. Tamar Bates returns, has kind of taken I don't want to say a backseat, but he's just kind of shared the spotlight, if you will. I think they're a tough out. And I got to tell you, we were talking about this last night, not on the air, but if you look at I think Saturday starts I think that ends the first round, or that's the 9th game for some teams in the league play. So we're entering the mid-season part of conference play. Who would you vote for Coach of the Year?
Yeah.
I mean, who would? I mean, is it Dennis Gates? Is it Mark Byington? Is it Bruce Pearl? Is it Mark Pope? You're talking about a tough decision at the end of the year.
Here's kind of an individual question, Mark. I feel like almost every broadcast I watch, maybe it's coming out of a timeout or it's a little stoppage in play, and the play-by-play is looking to fill up a little bit of dead air. I feel like the caller always gets asked, who's your dark horse? Who's your dark horse in SEC play? I feel like that's every broadcast. Who's your dark horse? And you can just pick basically any team you would like. I'm not going to ask you who your dark horse is.
Thank you.
But I am going to ask you, because it is a pretty stark difference watching the game real up close and being able to really almost feel and experience that physicality from watching it at home. Who's a team that surprised you, where you didn't expect them to be this physical or to match this level of intensity that you knew another team would come with? Maybe a team that you went into the game and you were like, wow, I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. I think it's Vanderbilt. When you look at them, they don't ever win the warm-up. I mean, when they come out and they're shooting, layups, they don't wow you with their size. They don't look the part. But they've got some dudes that just flat out get after you. Whether you're talking about Tanner or Huffman on the defensive end, McLaughlin, what Edwards has brought him offensively. He's done a masterful job of kind of putting that together. The only thing they're missing is really a big guy. And they've kind of played through that. And they've allowed, I think they're sneaky good defensively. And they've played enough offense. And they played with pace and spacing. They're a difficult team to guard in the half court. So if I've been surprised, it's more like the book is old, the cover is old and ragged, and it's not very big, and that's Vanderbilt. You look at them, and then all of a sudden, you look up and the teams that they're playing, they're tied with 4 minutes to go, and so you win. You have a consecutive Saturdays where you're beating Tennessee and Kentucky. You're doing good things.
Mark, a couple more and we'll get you out of here. But I know our guy, Big Gator EJ, one of our channel favorites here, watching from the West Coast this morning. He would never let us forget it if I didn't ask you about Florida. Okay. Because the Gators, as we know, have had a tremendous season, 18-2. And we were talking about this morning, actually. It's like you mentioned a few minutes ago, if you think of just the difference in possessions, if there's one possession maybe that goes differently for Florida, they're able to beat Missouri. Right. Even though Missouri had controlled that game a bit. The game at Kentucky, they score 100 points. They lose. Right. They give up 106. But it's like a couple of those things, and who knows if we're sitting here talking about Florida at 19-1 or 20-0 right now. What has impressed you most about the Gators this season? Because I think there's a variety of ways you could go with that answer.
Yeah, I think the backcourt, I think the addition of Elijah Martin has given them something on the perimeter they have not had in the last 3 or 4 years. A tough guy, a guy who can guard, a guy who gets after it, who gets up in your grill, who brings a certain kind of intensity each game. I think that's kind of changed the makeup. I think Will Richard is playing the best basketball of his career. He's evolved into a more complete player. He can impact winning in more ways than just making threes. Walter Clayton is Walter Clayton. He's consistent. You know what you're going to get. Maybe has as good a floater game for a guard as anybody in the league. And to follow along a similar comment, the player that probably we're not talking enough about is Alex Condon. He is a real problem in terms of matchup, the way they go the offensive glass. I don't think they're bigs. That's the Todd Golden system. He likes 8 guys, 4 guys for 3 spots in the backcourt, 4 guys for 2 spots in the front court. I don't think they're as bouncy as they were a year ago. Tyrese Samuel had the same kind of bounciness as Condon and Houck do. But I think they're more physical with Chinyalu down low, with Alexis down low. They can come at you in a little bit more physical, with a little bit more physicality. They're another team that I think can beat you in different ways. And I haven't said that about them very often because they had to beat you offensively. They can now fall back on their defense at times. I know they gave up 206 points to Kentucky in that loss, or, whatever it was. And then they fought uphill against Missouri the whole time. But you look at the waxing of Tennessee, and the return game is Saturday. That's a big game for both teams. Florida at Tennessee. If Florida goes in there and wins, could you imagine us talking about at the midway point, Tennessee's 4-5 in the league?
Wow.
I mean, that's how good the league is.
Yeah. All right, Mark, we're going to get you out of here on this. Max, you have the floor. Now, Mark, you get to get introduced. And you've heard this before because you've listened and watched the show. Max is a big bully ball guy. All right? Okay. He likes the bully ball players, Max. So take this where you want on the bully ball question.
It's almost like Nicholas knew I was going to ask a bully ball question because I had one teed up. I was going there right away. So we had Mike Morgan on, what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Okay. And, I'm back with Mike on Saturday. We've worked a lot together this year.
There you go. So I do it all bully ball team. Basically a representative for each team that fully embodies the spirit of bully ball. Cam Matthews won bully ball player of the year last year. Right now, I believe.
Okay, I get it.
I believe. Oh, this is a full, well-oiled machine.
Mike Morgan calls him the Swiss Army knife. I like that.
Yep. So as I was explaining this to Mike Morgan, he cuts me off and goes, "You better have Alex Condon in there. You better have Alex Condon in there." And so I want to know, who is your Max? I'm cutting you off. You better have this guy in there.
Stop.
For bully ball.
Stop right there. AJ Hoggard is such a bully. Is such a bully with the ball. He attacks the shoulders of his defender as well as anybody in this league. He does not need to see. He's like the running back who, when he picks his hole, he's not running through the hole. He's running to the shoulder of the offensive guard, or to the offense or the defensive tackle. That is what Hoggard does. And he is a complete bully when it comes to the ball in his hands and the way he attacks the paint.
Look at that.
That was a better answer than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Like, your day has been made. That's all we needed to hear, Mark. No, Mark, hey, listen, we appreciate you taking the time. I know we've been trying to do this for a while. I know travel can get crazy as you guys are going from place to place. So, hey, it's good that you get to kind of maybe stay in one place this time and stay in Baton Rouge for that game on Saturday, Texas LSU. We'll, of course, have it covered here on the channel. But we appreciate you hopping on with us. And, again, hopefully we chat soon and look forward to seeing you in Nashville at the SEC tournament here soon.
All right, guys, enjoy the hoops.
Thanks, Mark. All right, guys, there you go. Mark Wise, Max, that was all that you were looking for, wasn't it?
That was
incredible.
Fantastic.
Incredible answer.
Fantastic.
But look, you're the bully ball, committee here, so now you have some choices to make when it comes to who is AJ Hoggard, who's he going to replace on your current short list. You have to start narrowing the list down.
As much as the committee doesn't like to admit it, outside opinions greatly influence the outcome of our awards. So
especially, come on, ESPN SEC Network analysts, you have to; those opinions have to go higher than just me or Chris. You're not going to listen to us on this stuff. Come on. So there you have it.
Good. Great stuff.
All right.
Great stuff.
Yeah, we appreciate Mark joining us. Always a fun discussion. And again, he does have an interesting game, as we said on Saturday with Texas and LSU, because it's kind of a good segue, Max, if we want to take it there. We haven't talked about the Texas Ole Miss game from last night. And I mean, I keep saying this, but I keep forgetting that we've already recorded our predictions. So I'm like, I forgot we've talked about this game, but we talked about it on something that's going to come out after this. So I'm like making sure we circle back around. Okay. So Texas has the, 13-point lead in the first half last night. Five and a half to go. They're up 32-19. And you're thinking, oh boy, like this is, hey, Trey Johnson doing his thing, 22 points in this game. Kaluma, he was on the injury report. We were wondering about that. I don't remember if he was either questionable or probable, but we thought he would play. And actually, did he wind up being like a game time decision? Maybe at some point. I want to say, I don't remember what it was, but I feel like I saw someone tweeting it out. Maybe he's going to be a game time decision. But so he plays, and again, all the momentum kind of in Texas's favor here, but Ole Miss able to sort of change the fortunes a bit. And, as usual, it's Ole Miss being able to value their offensive possessions. Only had 4 turnovers in this game. Texas winds up with 11. But what stood out the most for you in this one? And again, we may have already talked about it in Jaemyn Brakefield going for 18. We're going to talk about the importance for him in upcoming games. But it's a big win for Ole Miss because we said they kind of had to have this one, 3-game slide. But now they get the win back to 5-3 in SEC play.
I feel like we have a saying, like a player for almost every team now. It's like, where would this team be without blank? Where would Ole Miss be without Sean Pedulla? I mean, this guy just last year we had Talon Cooper dubbed as the Southeastern 16 Mr. Big Shot, just because every time you needed one to go in, you go down by 6. And you can't afford, another possession where you don't score and you go down close to 10. Can't afford it. Oh, Talon Cooper makes his 3 with 3 seconds left on the shot clock. Shocker. That's been Sean Pedulla for Ole Miss. He makes timely shot after timely shot. And the difference with this game actually was Brakefield was really aggressive. This has probably been the most aggressive I had seen Brakefield offensively, and it wasn't because he started hot and got a lot of confidence. It was actually the complete opposite. First few times Brakefield was trying to get going, it didn't look pretty. A few turnovers, just kind of, and it wasn't a turnover, but it would be like just bad shot that ends in an easy defensive rebound, and it's just a possession killer. He stays at it. He picks up the slack for Morrell being injured. The broadcast probably said 400 times Morrell's not himself. They were just hammering away at that point. And they find a way to claw out a close one. Texas is dang good, though. They're not going anywhere.
No, Texas is trending up, and I think that's why I think it's kind of a tricky spot to go to LSU now on Saturday because we know LSU's kind of down, but Texas really needs to go in and win that game because we talked about kind of their overall profile for the NCAA tournament. And, yeah, I mean, as Mark was mentioning, like they're a little bit further towards that bubble type line. Like they're kind of right there still. But, yeah, I mean, for Ole Miss, like it's a huge win because, too, it's just like Auburn's coming in on Saturday. And, like we mentioned, and I think that was our setup, was like you can't lose this game because if Auburn comes in on Saturday, then Tuesday Kentucky's coming to town. You don't want to possibly be looking down the idea that maybe you could be on a 6-game losing streak. And
yeah,
again, the chances of an SEC team like Ole Miss losing 3 straight at home, the percentages are pretty low on that, probably no matter who they're playing. But, it was, I think, a very important win. And you mentioned Brakefield, certainly to see that aggression from him, that's what you want. He'll need to keep that going against Auburn, which we talk about in the preview of that game. But, I mean, I think it's still the same things we always say. Like, how can Ole Miss make it difficult on the opposing offenses? You knew it was going to be a challenge with Trey Johnson here, and we talked about the Texas 3-point percentages, right? 22.7% here, 5 of 22, and it's just I think that's kind of been one of those struggles is outside of Johnson being able to find that consistency from 3. And Ole Miss I thought defensively did a lot of good things here, especially to make the comeback because it did feel like for a while there you're thinking, man, Texas is just they could run away with this thing maybe, but we probably knew that wasn't going to happen in terms of just the way the game was playing out. So what else do you want to jump into on this one, Max, and then we can go to the people for the final stretch run here of the show.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize that we have just stopped mentioning Kendall Weaver just because he's been out for so long now. It's kind of it doesn't really do much just to keep telling you guys that he's out when he's been out for a while now. But I mean, this was a 21 minute a game guy, 3rd on the team in rebounding, 2nd on the team in offensive rebounding. does a lot of the little things. And SEC games where you're noticing now 1-2 possessions is the difference in the game. 3 points at Ole Miss. Is Kendall Weaver worth 3 points? I would say he's worth a good amount. He does a lot of the little things for him. Maybe he dives on the floor and gives him a jump ball, and there's a 3-point swing right there. We're headed to overtime now, right? So little things like that. I feel good about Texas is what I'm trying to say.
I do too. I think Texas is, definitely one of those teams, and that's why I said we say all that now. You can't go lose at LSU. You got to go find a way to win that game. That'll be a tight spread, I'm sure, in that game. But I think you want to see Texas go out, take care of business. If they do that against LSU, 3 of their next 4 at home, which include Arkansas, Alabama, and Kentucky, have a road game at Vanderbilt in there, which will not be easy, as we know. But a lot of opportunity for Texas to get off that bubble and be a team that we're like, yeah, they're in. And I know you've brought up like Torvik percentages on Texas. What did you say? Is like up to 92% or something like that?
Guys, the sky's got to fall. They're in.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. So there are your thoughts on the games from Wednesday nights. And as we said, we tried to get ahead today because Thursdays are always kind of wild. So we've already done some of our predictions for Saturday's games. We have made predictions for all the high-profile games on Saturday. We have already recorded. You guys want us to give you the spoilers right now? You want to tell us? Let me tell you who we picked. I can't do that. You got to watch the videos. But we've already made our predictions for Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Auburn, Ole Miss. We still have to do the rest of the games, today. But just letting you know, those have already been inserted as the picks. All right, let's get to you guys here.
Yes.
Big Baller Brett, 199 Super Chat earlier. Chris Youngblood, Mo D, Aiden Holloway. Yeah, the trifecta for the Tide. So, yeah, we appreciate you, Big Baller Brett. Joining Holly. You did behave. You guys, once again, did a great job. Yeah. We bring guests to the house, and you guys behaved. So we appreciate that. Yes, and by the way, Holly as well. The day feels incomplete without a Southeastern 16 live stream. Well, we appreciate that.
Love it. Love it.
Our day does too. Sometimes we look up and say, wait a minute, we're not streaming today? What's going on? Who do we talk to? What do we do? We do that too. So, and let's see what else we got. Skylar wants to know, any live streams before Saturday? I don't think so, because usually Fridays we don't stream, just because it's like we have to find a day somewhere where we just regather our thoughts before the 4 live streams we're going to do on Saturday. So, yeah, probably you'll get the usual predictions video for the rest of the games tomorrow morning. Today you'll get Kentucky, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss. The rest of the game predictions will be up tomorrow, so that'll replace the live stream for tomorrow morning. So that's just kind of how we structure it these days here with that. But, all right, question here I thought was interesting. Why is the Alabama-Auburn game at 3 p.m.? Why in the world is that not a 7 p.m. game on ESPN? So let's look at the schedule here. What's the date on that one? What's the date on that one, Max? Is that...
Oh, I would have to go to the schedule.
Sorry,
I don't know the exact date.
I'll find it here.
February 15th?
15th, is that right? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I don't have the schedule put up either. All right, so yeah, that's a 3 p.m. game. So the primetime game is Kentucky at Texas, 7 p.m. Yeah. So,
ooh.
Yeah. I mean, that's the primetime game. So they wanted the Cats on the road against the Longhorns for the first time in SEC play. So I guess that's why Alabama and Auburn is the afternoon game. But two, I mean, some of that is sort of you don't necessarily always have your top game in the primetime slot. Sometimes you like the little afternoon slot on Saturdays too. So, so that's kind of the way it works. Wait a second.
Yeah, I just saw that too. What happened?
She's in.
How'd that happen?
Skylar is here. New member. It has happened.
All right.
Where's Mother Carol? We need Mother Carol in here. She would love this moment. But yes, so Skylar is officially in. There she is. So the It Just Means More tier at Southeastern 16. That means Skylar and our other 200-plus members here at the channel will be watching. The watch-along on Saturday nights, yes, it will be Kentucky and Arkansas, 8 p.m. prime time, 8 p.m. Central. We will have the watch along on Saturday night for our members, Kentucky, Arkansas, and everything else. Hey, Nicholas, listen here. We've said many times, we gift out memberships, but we cannot choose who they go to. All right, that is not on us. I wish we could, but that's a YouTube thing, not an us thing. But we'll be doing the watch along on Saturday night. We'll also, of course, be doing our primetime show after the watch along. Yes. So the primetime show is going to be really primetime this weekend. It's going to be late. So for anyone who's not a member, you'll get our thoughts on Kentucky, Arkansas, and the other games of the day after that, which will probably be 10 or 10:30 Central Time on Saturday night. And then we'll let you know our schedule for the live stream, live reaction shows on Saturday to the other games throughout the day. And yeah, there will be a lot of fun stuff coming as always. But anyways, what else, Max?
I cannot believe that game day is going to Duke, Carolina for just another series of the Duke Carolina rivalry, which I'm not, taking nothing away from it. I know Arkansas's down and I know North Carolina's down, but there is only one Cal's first return game to Rupp.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to put the game day on that? Who's making the decisions up there? Get him on the horn.
Oh, wait a minute. Max, are you calling someone?
Wait a
minute. Now, Max only has 2 numbers in his phone. Only 2. Yep. He's either calling ESPN for the game day scheduling. He does that. Max controls the scheduling. They didn't answer his calls this time for some reason.
Yep.
But the only other number.
I was busy on the line with my other number.
Max, again, 2. This guy is unlike anyone I know. Only 2 numbers in his phone. ESPN and the other number that he has in his phone, Sanders Logistics. Incredible. I mean, think about that. ESPN should feel pretty good about themselves if this is the company they're keeping in Max's phone. Yep. Themselves and Sanders Logistics. Because Sanders Logistics, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving, he may have 3 numbers in his phone. He may have Sanders Logistics, and he may have Ted R. Sanders' phone number as well. But I can't confirm. A leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area. Their team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. So if Max makes the call to ESPN and says, you know what? I know you've set up game day. Where are they going? Are they going to Chapel Hill or Duke? Where's the game at? I have no idea. I don't pay attention to these things.
Doesn't matter.
Who cares? Wherever they're going on Saturday, I have no idea where the game's being played. That should tell you our thoughts on Duke, Carolina, the rivalry right now. Yep. Max could call him and say, I know you guys have already set the building up, but I need you to pick all that stuff up, and I need you to move it. Move it to Lexington, Kentucky for John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena. He could do that. And you know what? They do it in an efficient, hassle-free way, and they'd also do it for an affordable price because you're not putting a high price on my guy Max Barr. You're not going to say, hey, Max, I'll do it for $6,000. No, I don't think so. No. Please. No. Pennies for Max Barr. Whether you're moving across town or across the country or from Cameron Indoor or wherever else they're going to be at on Saturday to Rupp Arena in Lexington, Sanders Logistics has you covered. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com.
Beautiful.
All right. There you go. Okay. There you have it, guys.
Yep.
Another show in the books. You got to move it. Maybe I should start bringing in the 90s songs now. I did the 80s songs there for a while. Maybe I get some 90s songs going with the ad reads. We appreciate you guys, though. Who wins an Arkansas-North Carolina game?
Might go to triple overtime.
The spread would be on that one.
They'll just pause the game and continue it the next day.
By the way, I do think, Scott Van Pelt was very high on the Tide last night. He decided to go contrarian and picked Alabama instead of Auburn.
Scott picked Alabama to win it all. He made a statement. This team's
winning. He was on field at 68 last night. I think it was is Auburn the favorite? And I think he said, I'm gonna maybe throw Alabama in there. So, maybe not wrong. All right, we appreciate you guys. Another fun show. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button if you haven't already. Join them. It just means more tier. Watch alongs, live streams coming on Saturday. Always the fun day of the week. So check it all out. Check out all the predictions coming up on the channel. all the big games, as we said, all the games, they'll be there. So we appreciate you guys watching, as always. And, we'll talk to you soon at Southeastern 16.